Live from the ZTN studios in Harare, Zimbabwe. Thank you for joining us. This is Thriving Heals, the show where we look at all things female. What drives them? What do they struggle with? What do they need help with? What do they enjoy most about life? If you're a Zimbabwean woman, this is definitely the show for you. Today, our focus is COVID-19 trauma. A lot of women are bearing the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic in the households. They're the caregivers. Even in our hospitals, majority of them are the women. But who is taking care of them? How are we coping with not just the trauma of suffering from COVID-19, but from watching our loved ones, our children, our siblings, our parents? How are we dealing with that? Not everybody is making it out alive, but we still have a lot of trauma to discuss. Nobody talks about it. We just keep our lives moving and we think we've made it. We think we're okay. Today we look at some of the women who've had COVID, had to deal with COVID among their loved ones. And hopefully we will also help them move past by the end of today. Joining me in the studio, I do have, she's a marketing and media specialist. But at the core of her, she is a mother, she is a sister, she is a daughter. Her name is Constance Makoni Todlana. Constance, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, and over the phone, I am joined by musician Tariro Negitare. She also has her experience and will be sharing that with us. And again, the hope of today is to address some of the gaps in dealing with the trauma and moving forward as women in Zimbabwe. We also will be joined over the phone by psychologist Langeli Hlebule, who hopefully will help us kind of understand what we're dealing with, the extent of it, because sometimes, you know, I had a chat earlier with Constance and she was saying she thought she'd moved on until something triggered it. How do we deal with all these things? So ladies, thank you so much for joining us on Thriving Heals today. It is a bit of a heavy topic, but hopefully there is light at the end of this tunnel. Constance, you are in studio. I am going to start with you. Just tell us a bit about your COVID story.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It is indeed a bit of a heavy story, and taking me back to that position will obviously bring two results. One that will show if I've really dealt with it, and one that will show if I'm strong, like I think I am. So my story goes back to July 2020, when my grandmother, who may her soul rest in peace, who died last year, her name was Constance, so that's where the connection comes from, right, because we were very, very close. So she was staying with my parents here in Harare, and I received a call that she was not well. She had gone for a funeral. We had told her not to attend, but it was her brother, her cousin brother, but you know how it is in our Shona culture, and with the elderly, they do not have cousins and so forth. So it was her brother, and she wanted to go. So we told her not to go, but she was adamant that she wanted to go. So she went there, she spent some days there, and then when she came back, she had a flu. So we took her to the local surgery, and the doctor, they just said it was a normal flu. So it took 7 days, and we thought she was okay because that was like the normal flu cycle that we've always known. Right. So after that, after the 7 days, I remember it was because we were really counting the days and following up to check if she was okay. So the Monday after the 7 days, my mom then called me in the evening and she said Gogo was not well. She was complaining about some chest pains and pain in her heart. So we then became frantic because now we were worried, and also reading with what was going on. That was like exactly the same time when we had a sharp increase of cases last year, if you check on the statistics. So I then started calling the COVID-19 call center, all the numbers, but some of them were going through, some were not, and you know, they were just there was just this laborious process of the questions that they ask you. You want help there and then, they're asking you, so where did she go, what did she do, and whatever. So I just didn't have the patience. May they forgive me for that.
But and how are you, sorry, how, as you're going through this, how are you feeling? You haven't yet discovered what it is, but you know Gogo's not well and there is the risk that this is what it is. How are you feeling?
At that point, all we wanted was help. So I don't quite remember how I was feeling then, but all we wanted was to get her some form of help and at least to know what exactly was going on. So that evening we didn't get any help, and then the following morning, that's when I managed to get a contact with the city council. We called them and then they said we should go and get tested, all of us. So in as much as I was at my house, I was going to go to get tested because I'm the one who was going to pick them up, because my mother was there, my father was there, and my little brother. So I then went and picked my mother and my grandmother. My father said he was fine, and then my younger brother also said that he was fine. So I picked them up and we went to the City Council testing center. We got tested there. My grandmother was unusually quiet that day. So the results, we were told they were going to come after 24 hours. So we went back home. We just bought the gingers, the garlics and whatever. We just beefed up what we had. And we also got some medication that we managed to buy over the counter. So we went back home. After that, Gogo started deteriorating. So on the Tuesday, my mother then called again and she said, Gogo is deteriorating, you need to come. And I said, but if I come there, I'm also risking my family. I can't go up and down. So my mother said, okay, fine, I will handle. Then later, my father called and he said, I think you should come. So I went back there. Gogo was still unusually quiet. Her results were not out. We tried to get the results, but unfortunately, we couldn't get them. We also.
Why couldn't you get them?
I'm not. The process was a bit slow back then. Okay. Unlike now, I've been tested so many times by that same facility, and I get the results within 24 hours. But back then, I'm not sure what was going on.
Right.
So we failed to get the results, and that's the same period when hospitals were not taking anyone if they didn't have COVID certificates. So we tried to get her into a hospital. We failed. We tried to get her into several places, but we failed because we didn't have the COVID certificates. And then I remember when we went to one of the testing centers and we were in the car, she started complaining of sharp pains and we had to go home. We had to go back home. So we went home and then we dropped her off. Wednesday, my mother wasn't feeling well and now my father was also not feeling well. I had started a company that it was like a side hustle that I was doing with my father. So now we had clients. We had just gotten a very, very big contract where we were getting in a lot of money and so forth. So now my father is the one who was on the ground and he called while he was at that place to say he wasn't feeling well. We had just got a contract, someone had referred us there and so forth. And now the chief operations of that company was not well. So I had to go there, give him some medication and so forth, and then I took him home. He wasn't well. He had just deteriorated. He just moved from 0 to, from 100 to 0 in a time that I really didn't understand. And then when I got home, my mother wasn't well also. She had deteriorated. That was on a Wednesday. So Thursday morning, my father then called and he was coughing. It was really, really bad. And he said, you know what, please make a plan because we're all not well.
Right.
And my younger brother was not there. He was where they were working. So I told him to stay there. Right. Because if he had come here, he was obviously going to be affected. So I told him to stay there. So that was the situation. And then we started looking for a caregiver. Those ones that have done first aid and what. We just wanted someone who would come. We tried calling and calling, but the moment we would tell them that these people have got symptoms, nobody wanted. So I'm the one who was then left with no option but to pack my bags and leave my young children and go home, which was a very, very tough decision, but it had to be done. And I remember my other sibling was out of the country calling and saying, but if you go, it means the whole family.
Right.
It means the whole family. And now because my father was not able to go and push the project, I had to recall my brother because I also needed help. But when my brother came, he was also coughing. He had a flu and he had lost sense of taste and sense of smell. His symptoms were very, very mild, but
he still was ill.
Yes. So now I had 3 people who were not ill, and at least the little brother could help. So now my older brother was worried that you're going there. It means the whole family. If the whole family is going to perish, then I'm going to be alone here. Right. And I was like, but what do I do?
Right.
We can't get a caregiver. We can't take these people to hospital. What do we do?
Right.
So it was I remember I got there Friday morning That's when I went there, and the situation was bad. My husband said he was going to just take me into the house, and he was going to end by the door. He was going to get in. So I was going to get in. I got in geared with the face mask, the face shield, the gloves, and what, because I had really prepared. But when we opened the door, my grandmother was lying down, and my mother was just seated there on the chair. Just her face was, I couldn't make
out what her expression was.
Yes, the expression, I couldn't really decipher what exactly was going on. And then, so I thought, maybe my dad has passed on, because that morning he had called me, and it was bad. He was like, because I'm in pain. It was that bad. So I thought, maybe daddy's gone. And then I asked Mama, where's daddy? And he was like, he's in the bedroom. I've been telling your father that he should come and sit here, because we are all not well. We're better off dying together, because I can't walk to the bedroom and keep checking on him. I know he's not okay. But here Gogo is also not okay. So Gogo and I have agreed to sit here, but your father, he still wants to be in the bedroom. Go in and talk to him. And I was like, but why is Gogo on the floor? And now Gogo was now speaking gibberish, so to speak. We couldn't pick what she was saying. So when my husband saw this, he just walked in and he picked Gogo up. He had said he was going to end by the door, but he couldn't. So
he realized he needed to help.
Yeah, so he had to pick Gogo up and put her in bed. And then we checked on my father. He was breathing heavily. It was bad. So we had to do, unfortunately, because, with these variants and whatever, what we did back then might not work now. And I'm not a medical person to then really go into detail about what we did, but we steamed him. We did everything that we thought possible, and it helped him breathe better. Because even after that, he walked out of the house and he went and then he started basking in the sun. And that was much better. But what I can tell you is I spent 3 nights without sleeping, because my father, he would make sounds. Like these are very, very disturbing sounds. And then my grandmother would be speaking gibberish like the whole night. So these were 2 people who were making noise. I don't even know whether to call it noise or what, but I could not sleep for 3 days. And the 3rd night, that is when my grandmother went silent. So day 1, I was like, hey, can she keep quiet? Can she just keep it low? Day 2, it was the same. Day 3, I was worried that she was quiet. It was just too much. The silence was just too much. I remember even failing to go to the bathroom. I was just too scared. Now my little brother was back, and I kept telling him, go and check on Gogo. And he was like, no, I'm not going. Go and check on Gogo. No,
because he's also worried, but he also doesn't know what to do.
Yes, and Sunday night, when we went to check on Gogo, the situation had deteriorated so much that we couldn't tell our parents, because now we were scared, because Mama is also hypertensive. So we were scared that if we were just going to throw in the news without being careful, her
heart was going to spike something
else. So, and now Daddy was in this state where we could not just tell him. So it was just me and my 23-year-old little brother, and we had to deal with that. So
medically, were you still trying to get help?
What we then did was that we managed to get a doctor who came and took tests at home when these results were not coming. We managed to get a doctor who came and took tests. And the confirmation was that all 3 were positive.
Right. Right.
Because it was too expensive, we managed to get 3 tested. And my brother, I just told him, you don't have a sense of taste, you don't have a sense of smell. Dude, you've got COVID. These are the 3 we have to confirm so that we know what to do. You keep on doing what you're doing.
Okay. All right. Emotionally, as you were looking at all this going on, as you're trying to take care of everyone, as you're worried about your children at home, who was taking care of you?
Well, what I can say is I realized at that point that I had a very, very strong support system. A very, very strong support system. If ever I had doubts, that was the moment of reckoning, that my husband was there, like 24/7. It was, when I look back, it was stupid of him to come and see me and whatever, because he was risking his life. You know, we could have left the kids without anyone to take care of them, but he was there. He was throughout. And then my brother, the relatives, and so forth. And I remember getting irritated by calls from people who were saying, you need to take care of yourself. And I was like, people are saying I should take care of myself. How?
How do I do that?
How do I do that? My father was, you know, on our house, if you know the ghetto setup, our house is in the ghetto, there's one bathroom. My father was moving from his bedroom to the bathroom, crossing through the house, coughing. Daddy, can you wear your mask? And he was like, I cannot breathe in that thing. So he was coughing and coughing.
Everywhere.
And so I would make sure the windows were open, and I would sanitize, I would clean, I would do it. I don't know where I got the energy from, but at that point, it wasn't really about sitting down and thinking about my emotions. It was about making sure that those I was taking care of were okay, they were getting better, and that the house was clean.
Let me give you a moment to breathe. Tariro, you have an experience with COVID yourself, and I remember when we did the second episode rather of Thriving Heals, you gave us a bit of a breakdown of how you got through COVID. But just talk us through that again, that experience and your mental state as you were going through everything you were dealing with during that period.
Hi, Candice. Yeah, it was, very similar to my sister here. And in my case, my experience happened early January, February, when we had the second lockdown. And I was at my parents' place because that's where it happened. And my parents then, started off as a mild cough, same thing. And, progressed. We thought it was just a cough, but we figured, okay, with all this going on, we might need to test them. So, as obviously, being the daughter who was at home, my sister, we had to sort of isolate, and my sister had to move out. So yeah, we were pretty much just communicating with my siblings on the phone. And then there's a morning that I got up and both my parents were down. Really panicked. So I just went outside, just took a walk and started praying. And I said, Lord, I have no clue what to do. And he said to me, look, start speaking life. Start speaking life. I tell you, the only thing that got me through this was literally faith and God's grace. So I came back, I had to be my member, braced myself up and just took care of my parents. Chawia was literally what I told myself. Whatever it is, I have to take care of these people. And lo and behold, I also got the virus. So third day, we're all down. So literally my daughter and my cousin, who was also at home, literally had to take care of. My daughter's 15 and my cousin is now, 21? They literally held the fort and took care of all of us. One experience that I will never forget was, so my mom recovered earlier because, look, my mom is a bit of an enthusiast when it comes to kunatira and all these, African remedies. So she was, on top of her game earlier than my dad and I. And I remember that time I couldn't eat because I was coughing so much. And if I ate, then I'd vomit. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't get up because I was too weak. It was just crazy. Then I was trying to bath. And then I just started coughing. And I just puked all over the floor. My daughter just came running and I just started crying. Garapa floor. She just looked at me and couldn't do anything. But my mom came in. You could tell she was still ailing, literally just cleaned everything. And for me, that humbled me and that just reminded me of the kind of love that family has. But yeah, it's not something I would wish on anyone. Mentally, look, it was probably the most traumatic thing I'd have to go to, because every time you're thinking, I'm probably taking my last breath, I look at my dad and think he's probably taking his last breath. What happens if we all die at the same time? But I'm so grateful to the grace of God and just, his healing power, and we managed to get through and we all survived.
Tariro, have you had a conversation with your daughter about what she had to witness and just kind of understand where her mind was as well as she was watching you all, because this is not just Mama struggling, it's Mama, it's Mbuya, it's Kulu. Everybody is struggling, and she kind of had to grow up there in that time, just, you know, to help your cousin take care of everybody. Have you had a conversation with her?
We had, and one of the things that she actually came to me was, she said, I'm a bit freaked out because Gogo is just telling me that, you know, I'd like to be buried in this dress. You know, my mom is she was very full of high spirits. Even at her lowest, she was in high spirits. And she kept talking to her. They're very close. She's like, look, if I die, make sure you bury me in Bachirangore Roma. She was saying it jokingly, but then she came to me and she shared that. And I said, how does that make you feel? She's like, look, I'm really scared. And I said, well, look, anything can happen, but we trust that God is going to get us through. And if anything does happen, just remember that God is with you. I had nothing else to say. And I firmly believe that that was the only solution, and that's all I could share with her. But I really had to encourage her in the Lord and to tell her and assure her that, look, my siblings are there to take care of her, and just be real with it, that anything could happen, because at that point in time, we were all unsure of what the end result was going to be.
Yeah, that is.
But it has definitely made her stronger. It has definitely built up her faith, because she prayed. She prayed really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Constance, how did you have conversations with your kids about, I have to be away because I have to go and, you know, take care of Gogo and Sekuru? How did you explain this to them?
So you see, my kids are very young, ECD and infant school age. So what they know about COVID is just the basics, and I had to explain to them that the whole family is not well, it's not okay, and I have to go there and take care of them. I remember the night before I left, we shared the bed, and you know, we were hugging each other, talking, crying, and so forth. The oldest is the one who cried a lot, but I told him, I'm coming back. Don't worry, I'm coming back. So even as I was there with my parents, here and there, when I found time, I would communicate with them. It was not as regular as I would communicate with them, like when I travel or when I'm out there on leisure and whatever. But it was, I would communicate with them when I would find time. So my son would say, Mommy, I hope you're coming back and you'll be there for my birthday. And I'll tell him, I'll be there for your birthday. I'll be there for your birthday. So they're very young to understand, but yeah, they knew that Mommy had to be there.
I think the dynamic of not just the explanation, but also like you're noticing the patterns. You're noting that, look, I was communicating with them, but not as frequently as I would have under normal circumstances. And I know that children are very intuitive. They do pick up on these things. We may not know what they understand or think they understand as much. When you went home, what was the reception?
From the kids?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I went back home on my son's birthday. So I had lots of goodies in the car, and we just turned that day into a party. Right. So he wasn't expecting it, and everything about COVID and Gogo dying and whatever, we totally forgot about it. Right. And we turned it into a party. But allow me to mention that while I was there and the husband was running around, we also had the house help who was there, because I just left and she was there taking care of the kids. So I also think she did a good job. While I was going through the trauma, imagine her being at our house. What were her relatives saying? You know, because she was also kind of exposed.
Yeah, definitely. Langelihle, you're a psychologist, and I know you've heard both Tariro and Constance's stories. How do we put things in line? How do we put things in perspective in such a way that as we are done dealing with this, we can start to process it as individuals, because we have to go through it at the time we're going through it, but how do we process it afterwards?
Okay. The actual thing is we cannot run away from it, first of all. In as much as taking an example with black women who always keep saying, you know what, I'm strong, I can do this, I'm strong even when they are not strong. But deep inside is striking anxiety, depressions, all the social isolation, as we know what COVID came with. It was nothing expected at all. It's something that hit people with a nuclear bomb. Because I remember myself when it started, I told myself, oh, it's like Ebola. It's going to come and it's going to go. You understand? I did not expect it to take this long. So now, as the women were explaining how they had to, first of all, see it happening to their own families and experiencing it, and them coming back home and the children are forgetting because there is the whole party going on, and she feels okay and God has taken care of it and all that stuff. The actual reality is that the anxiety and depression disorders are going to prolong. Why? It's because the pandemic is still there. There are rumors a fourth wave is coming, and with the whole vaccinations and people not trusting the vaccines and not knowing what is going to happen, it's also about the pre-existing things, the pre-existing memories. I remember when I was talking to my siblings when they were saying, I've been watching movies about vaccines. Vaccines usually are experimental. We're going to turn into zombies. These are things that are going to be part of people's lives. So picking up from all that, with the pressures as they were talking about, they had to leave everything they were doing to go to their grandmothers to take care of them, and the children taking care of their mothers or their parents at home. But there's that frustration that comes with not being able to do things yourself. I don't know if the one was Tariro was talking about her not being able and her daughter coming to her rescue. Yes, it shows that love, but as women, we like doing things ourselves, we like being active. And now you realize that, okay, I cannot get up, I cannot function. Somebody is doing something for me. Now I feel all useless. You get all frustrated. Why can't I not do this? And you want so much to do it and it's not happening. But the only possibility, because in the psychological side, the best way to deal with all these psychological effects, the first and foremost of it all is exercise. Being able to move around, being able to have your body being active. In as much as we have all these therapies and things like that. There are other countries where now they provide online counseling because honestly people are going through a lot. People do not have time to digest all that. They just had to bottle it in because most people were in isolation. But luckily the two ladies saying they had support. But a lot of women had to be in their homes, isolated, and relatives no longer coming through because they are afraid to contaminate the virus. So at the end of the day, people have conversations with themselves. You try to get online to talk to people, and people are also busy taking care of their sick ones at home. And then you ask yourself, who do I talk to? There is boredom, there is worry, there is this phobia that like, okay, if someone is coughing, probably this is COVID. So it's something that if people want to get out of it, it's going to take a while, but it's almost possible. But it's about acceptance. Like, there's this the avoidance approach systems. These systems people are going to find themselves in. They have to choose. If I face this head on, I get the vaccine and be okay, or I just don't get the vaccine and not be okay. Because somebody else will go, I had people saying, okay, counseling services, they're very expensive, I cannot afford it. And then there's this whole other African, Zimbabweans, there's still African customs whereby people feel like I cannot talk to a stranger about my problem. But if we can be able to educate people and really show them how important it is to talk to someone, then they will discover that the importance of lifting that burden, it relieves the stress. Bit by bit, it does work.
So a lot of it involves us really getting out of our own minds as women and saying it's okay for me to need help. It's okay for me to need to talk to somebody. And we do have that one problem where you mentioned as we were having the conversation earlier, Constance, that now your parents also feel a kind of need to protect you. And if they get ill or if they just have a sniffle, they're not going to tell you quickly. How are we preparing ourselves for what comes after COVID? How are we preparing ourselves for life after we've had our loved ones ill? We've gotten out of that. Did you just up and move forward, or did you take measures to make sure you were also all right?
You know what happened? After I moved back home, I kept on insisting that they should not move around. They shouldn't move around. Even my mother even spent, I think, some more months at home because she just wasn't comfortable going back to work. And lucky enough, her employer totally understood. But my father, because he works on his own and we were running this small thing, he had to move around. So now when he had coughs and sneezes, I would get very, very uncomfortable, get worried. So they got to a point where they would not tell me. Even now, I remember a few weeks ago, my mom had a flu and she didn't go to work for some days. So I then called her and she said, I'm home. And I was like, what are you doing home? I thought you were saying you said you were going to work this week. And she said, I had a flu for the past 4 days, but I'm okay now. And I was like, what? Why didn't you tell me? It's because of what you're doing right now that I don't tell you anymore. We don't tell you anymore when we've got a flu because you think we are busy moving around, we're being careless, we're being like this. So I'm overly protective. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to a stage where I don't, counsel them about COVID and whatever, because every day I send them the statistics, I send them links, I send them this. It's just that paranoia that I'm dealing with. And even right now, I thought I had gotten over it. But when this cold spell then came in July, it then just took me back to last year when I received that call that Gogo wasn't well. And these pictures kept flashing in my head. I actually thought I was strong. I am strong, actually. But this phase, this very cold spell, and now the spiking in numbers just keeps taking me back to that point. And I kept counting the days and the hours thinking, but if we can just get to August, we'll be fine. If the heat becomes more, the temperatures just go up a bit, we'll be fine. It's like I'm on the edge, just waiting for July to end, August to kick in, and I don't know whether I'll get over that, but I'm praying that I will. And I'm one person who, like the psychologist said, was not really the type that likes counseling. I don't see myself sitting down and opening up issues and telling somebody I don't know, because once a chapter is closed, it's closed. I've dealt with it, so what?
Okay, but clearly it's not closed. So how do you deal with it?
Well, I think it's July. By the time we get to August, I'll be fine.
And what happens if you get to August and the temperatures are not where you think they should be?
Yeah, then maybe I'll acknowledge that I need counseling. But for now, I think I'm okay.
Tariro, how are you dealing with your anxiety?
Look, I'm taking it a day at a time. There's things I can control, things I can't control. One thing is that COVID, in my case, has had physical, effects. For instance, my chest is not as strong as it used to be. I struggle with my breathing, and I'm a person who loves jogging every morning. So now I've had to sort of tone that down. Mentally, I've really come to a point of doing me, like really just doing things that make me happy, because I realized how short life is. Spending time with the people that I want to spend time with, online, of course, and just engaging more in creative things that make me happy. I do one of the things that I asked my dad, I said, okay, what was this experience for you, and how are you dealing with it? And he says, one thing COVID did was it took all my energy, and I felt I'd lost everything. But I feel like God has restored it, and I just want to give life my all, whatever that means. So if it means I'm going to enjoy my meal today, I'm going to enjoy it to the last. You know what I mean? So I think it has given us a new perspective and just an appreciation of breath and an appreciation of the sun, or just being able to walk the next block. And that has kept me going. Just that gratitude of saying, look, I still have work to do on this earth, and trusting God to walk me through that process, because he did take care of me before.
When it comes to protecting yourself now, Constance, you didn't then get ill, and you were I think you're actually very fortunate in that aspect. And how did you protect yourself as you were taking care of your parents and Gogo?
I had a lot of PPE, like that protective equipment, the basic, the face shields, the masks. We had disposable masks that would take off. We had the sanitizing spray. We had the sanitizer itself. We had disinfectants and so forth. I would jig I'll put, you know, the disinfectant into the utensils and everything. I just used basic knowledge, and I would consult Google, YouTube, and some doctor friends, and you know, and also when our relatives and some friends picked that we had that situation. There was a flood of information. Information was just coming from this end. And I remember my friend who was in the UK who sent me information about what she did when her husband fell ill. So that also helped me, because I remember when I had a tingle on my throat, she told me, Connie, you're going to get a tingle on your throat. So when you get the tingle, do this, 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 and that. And I did that. And that tingle just went silent from then on. So I think maybe because I'd been exposed, you can imagine trying to feed your grandmother and she's spitting the food. And as much as it's not landing on your face because you've got a face shield, it's landing on your hand, it's landing on your t-shirt and so forth. So the exposure was there, but I believe that God protected me, because he knew that if I wasn't there to then take care of all these people, who was going to do that? Who else was going to do that?
Now, you'll find that as women, when we're taking care of our loved ones, often we tend to throw caution to the wind, because you forget about yourself. You're trying to make sure that the person you're caring for is getting better. Did you have to make a conscious effort to remember to mask up, or did it come to you like second nature? Was it something that you're like, listen, I just need to do this and let me get it done? Did you struggle with that?
I did not. I did not struggle at all, because remember, I am a daughter and a mother. I've got 2 kids looking up to me that I want to see graduate, that I want to see getting married, growing up, and so forth. So I had to do whatever I could to protect myself, because I at that point, I was, in as much as I had the parents and the grandmother and everybody else to take care of, I was the priority. I had to mask up, to do whatever it took to protect myself. Because I remember even sleeping with the windows open. You know how it is in the ghetto, and the thieves, you know, the risks that come with sleeping with the windows open. But I just could not find myself locking up everything and you know, just exposing myself like that. So I told myself I would rather deal with a thief. So this door and the windows, they're going to be open the whole night. So we'll watch TV, because I told my brother, let's not go and sleep in the bedrooms. Let's sleep here in the lounge. So you'd be on that sofa and me on the other one, and we would watch TV until morning, because we were also trying to drown the voices, you know, that were coming from the rooms that were very, very traumatic. But I also want to state that unlike my sister here, Tari, who had the energy to pray at that point, that's one thing I totally failed to do. And I remember talking to my very, very close sister-in-law, and I was telling her that, you know what, if there's one thing I can't do, it's I can't pray. But there's one verse that keeps coming to my mind, which says, I'm trying to remember the verse. I think it's Psalm 79 verse 20, which talks about you who have taken me through the valleys and trials and tribulations, great trials and tribulations. You revive me again. You make me great again. So I would just recite that verse over and over. And my sister-in-law was saying, you know what? Don't pray. It's okay. We're praying for you. Do what you've got to do. We're praying for you. So I knew I had a system there, and I just had this power in me that I don't know where it came from. You know, I'm very lazy when it comes to household chores and what.
But you found that
I'm
strength.
telling you, my mom, even up to now, she doesn't even believe what was going on.
Langelihle, we're dealing with like just two almost extreme opposites. One turned to prayer, one said, okay, look, I can't pray. What is going through someone's mind as they're dealing with a trauma that may influence that decision? What is the process that someone is going through? And is it a normal thing for someone to say either, look, I'm turning to prayer and this is what's going to help me, or I can't even switch that button on? Is it normal?
Yes, absolutely. Both scenarios, they are normal. But then at the same time, I had the other part that was saying, I eat like I'm eating for the last, I'm doing this like it's my last time and all this stuff. But deep inside, somebody knows possibly that this is not even my last time. So sometimes we have to be careful whether we are... sorry about that. Sometimes we have to be careful if we are really dealing with the situation or we think we are dealing with the situation. If we are really okay or we think we are okay. Because most of those times we, like I said, that we both of those things. When we are parenting, the more these psychological effects have a toll on us. So this is the mind trying to convince the person that, okay, you can pray. Yes, you can pray. You can pray. This is the time whereby the beliefs come in. We have different beliefs and religious people tending to things that they believe in. It's more like also, let me put it for example, like the placebo effect, whereby you believe something because you think something works because you believe in it. So when people believe in God and they pray, automatically they feel like they are okay. And then people feel like, okay, there is no God. There is nothing that I believe in. So either way, whatever is going to heal me is going to heal me. So people tend to have all that going on in their minds, and most of the time it's real.
Now, Langelihle, when we're dealing with grief in itself is a difficult thing, but the grief that I've seen around just from those who've lost their loved ones to COVID, it feels different. It feels, I'd say, heavier. It feels like it's more surreal. How is it so different when the process should technically be the same? We're grieving the loss of a loved one. How has it become so different? What is it that is affecting us more with this?
What is affecting us more with this is what you call post-traumatic stress disorder, that most of us might have heard but we're not aware of. This, whether when people have loved ones, even pandemics, we know we've had cholera, we've had Ebola in Zimbabwe taking away our loved ones. And it did happen. And now people replaying those scenes, coming to memory that, okay, it happened and this is where am I going to live? So it's a matter of uncertainty. People are uncertain of the next move. And as much as we may say our planning fallacy is in order, absolutely, we are bad at it. No matter how much we try to do our planning, because most of the time we always feel like we see always the best solution, going from point A to point B. Things are not happening from the way that we perceived they were going to occur. And then we're asking ourselves, what's going to happen next? Because we always want to know. We want to prepare. But the honest truth is, we cannot be prepared for this. We cannot be prepared for something that we do not know. And the other thing is, people are asking each other questions. We're not sure. We are told to mask up. Is this a waterborne disease or what? Because it's not so sure. So people are not sure if masking up is really, really, really what's going to prevent them. And then they also have to wash their hands. So is it contagious? Is it waterborne? It's things coming up. People not just exactly what to fight against. Those are the giving people most fears. That is why COVID-19 was the most effective of all pandemics in the years, because it was also a worldwide thing. Where do you tend to? Because there's also something called the flight or fight. Now, given this situation, if you want to take a flight, where do you go to? Where do you escape to? You want to go to Europe, you want to go to Asia, is there. So you have to be where you are. The only solution that you have is fight. Right. So some people are not willing, are not able to fight. So they are now facing something that they are not used to, and they are facing something that they do not even know how to do.
Right. Thank you so much, Langelishe. Now, unfortunately, we are out of time, and we do have to come to a conclusion for this show. So I'm just going to ask you all, as we round up, to just share with us your thoughts. Constance, for someone who is dealing with what you are dealing with right now, what can you say to them?
They need to be strong. They need to be very, very strong, and also protect themselves. I do not have the solutions, unfortunately, but the strength,
none of us do at this point.
We have it in us. We have it it's inherent in us. Some way it's in there. I don't know where I got the energy from. Up to now, I cannot even explain it, but it just came out. It unleashed itself. So when you're thrown into into the deep end, you just find yourself, paddling and swimming. Swim on, girl. This is the time. You will rest later. I don't know. That's the message that I've got.
All right. Thank you so much, Constance. Tariro, your final thoughts to someone who is struggling right now with a COVID-19 situation.
Yeah, I would definitely say, look, take care of your mind. Take care of your mind, because the mind can be very deceiving. And then also a sad reality is that death is inevitable, whether it's going to be with COVID or not. So it's important to prepare for it. Prepare for it in the physical and prepare for it in the spiritual. And thirdly, I firmly believe God is real and He will deliver us through this. And I believe we should just trust and hope for the best.
No, thank you very much. Langelishe, in 2 seconds, literally, because we are out of time, what tools can you leave the women of Zimbabwe with to just help them cope with this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, what I can say to women today is that let us be there for one another in best way we can. We all need each other, no matter how much strong we may seem. Deep inside, we need that help. See someone. Zimbabwe Psychologists Association is open to take calls to help assist who are going through all those things. It's highly important that people do that and be active and find anything to do that can keep you busy and your body moving, so that your body can be active during this time.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today and having this discussion with me. I know it was a heavy one, but I'm hoping that you all find your healing. I'm hoping you all heal from this trauma. It hasn't been an easy time for you. But thank you for taking time out to share your experiences with us. Thank you, Constance. Thank you, Tariro. Langelishe, thank you so much for your insights into how to cope with it. Now, dealing with trauma is never an easy thing, but you don't have to do it alone. As Langelishe said, there is a whole association of psychologists who are there to help you. If you feel it's too expensive, just talk to somebody over the phone, just talk to your friends, express yourself. It's never a burden when you are trying to get help. Talk to those that you feel you can talk to if you can't talk to a stranger, but talk to somebody, because your mind is going to be your worst enemy as we fight this pandemic. It has been a heavy day, but we hope that for Zimbabwean women, when all this is over, we will be able to heal from the trauma that we are dealing with. Everybody's dealing with COVID-19, and we will be saying prayers for each other. Let us continue to hold each other up and prop each other up. My name is Candice Mwakaliele. Be kind to each other, but be kinder still to yourselves. I'll see you next time.